When I was out grocery shopping, my in-laws went through my closet and donated my clothes. They said modesty was better for their son's image. I said nothing, just sent them a calendar invite marked final day because I don't really do drama. I'm not one to stir things up, not even with family. But this crossed a line I didn't even know they were capable of crossing. I live in Columbus, Ohio with my husband Ethan. We've been married 3 years. I work remotely as a web designer and keep to myself most days. Ethan works in local politics, nothing high-profile yet, just helping with council campaigns and zoning committee stuff. But his parents like to act like he's the next mayor. Their names are Marcia and Dawn. Marcia is the type of woman who smiles while she insults you. She doesn't yell. She just judges you with her eyebrows and says things like, "Well, I would never, but I suppose everyone's different." Dawn mostly stays quiet, just nods and reads the newspaper like it's still 1985. They moved in temporarily after a pipe burst in their house. At least, that's what they said. Just a week or two, Marcia claimed. It had been 29 days. I counted. At first, I tried to be civil, made them coffee, gave them space. But little things started piling up. Marcia would rearrange my kitchen drawers. She'd critique my groceries. "So much sodium," she'd mutter, or, "Isn't this brand full of chemicals?" Like I was poisoning her son. But the real issue was my clothes. Marcia had a huge problem with how I dressed. I'm not talking about anything wild. I wear jeans, sometimes leggings, t-shirts, tank tops in summer. Just normal stuff. But Marcia saw every piece of skin as a moral failure. Every time we left the house together, she'd stop me by the door with a forced smile. "Do you have something with longer sleeves?" Or, "Sweetheart, don't you want to cover up a bit more?" Ethan would sigh and pretend not to hear. He never wanted conflict. "She's old-fashioned," he'd say. "Don't take it personally." So I didn't. Until that Saturday. I went to Kroger, just a normal trip. We needed coffee, eggs, paper towels. I was gone for under an hour. When I got back, I knew something was off the second I stepped inside. The house felt different, like someone had been in my space. I went upstairs and opened our closet. Half my clothes were gone. Not just a few things. Entire sections. Dresses, tops, a couple pairs of shoes. Even a sweatshirt Ethan gave me for our first anniversary. My side looked like it had been cleaned out by a thrift store. I ran back down. Marcia was sitting calmly at the kitchen table, sipping tea like she hadn't just violated me. I asked, "Did someone go through our closet?" She didn't even flinch. "Oh yes," she said. "Dawn and I took care of a few things while you were out. Some of those outfits. Well, they didn't reflect the kind of woman Ethan should be married to. He's in public service now, you understand." I didn't respond. I was too stunned. My body felt cold, like I'd just walked into a funeral. She had gone through my personal belongings, chosen what was acceptable, and then thrown the rest away like trash. Ethan wasn't home. Later I'd find out he didn't know anything about it. Whether that's true or not, I still don't fully know. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't give her the performance she probably expected. I just walked back upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the closet. Empty hangers swinging gently, like they were mocking me. Then I opened my laptop. I created a calendar invite. Date, next Saturday time, 10 a.m. Title, final day. I sent it to Ethan. To Marcia.
To Dawn. No explanation.
No message. Just those 2 words. Because if they thought they could cross that line and stay in my home, they were about to learn just how serious I could get. The calendar invite sat in their inboxes all week. No one brought it up. Not Ethan. Not Marcia. Not Dawn. But I saw the shift. Marcia started hovering more, watching me in the kitchen, commenting on every little thing. "You know, you'd be such a graceful woman if you just adjusted a few things." Or my favorite, "Marriage is about humility, dear. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride." Swallowing pride? I had stayed silent through insults, through her backhanded judgment, through having my privacy violated and my clothes thrown out without warning. And now she wanted me to be humble? Ethan was no help. I tried talking to him that Tuesday night. I asked him flat out if he knew about what happened with the clothes. He swore he didn't.
I wouldn't do that, he said.
That's not okay. But, babe, it's just clothes. We can replace them. He didn't get it. It's not about the clothes, I told him. It's about the control. The disrespect. And you didn't even stand up for me.
He looked down.
She's my mom. I didn't think it would go this far. That's the problem.
He didn't think.
He never pushed back. He never protected me. And now, it wasn't just her crossing the line, it was him standing there, watching her do it. By Thursday, Marcia started making comments directly to my face, no filter. At breakfast she asked, "Will you be wearing something decent to church this Sunday? You know the deacon's wife is very observant." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I won't be at church. And soon neither will you." She blinked. Didn't know how to respond. I saw Don glance up from his paper for the first time in weeks. The invite was 3 days away. And I started preparing. I printed every photo of my missing clothes that I had, stuff from Instagram, old Facebook albums, selfies. I found receipts and emails from stores. I made a full list. Then I called the donation center they always bragged about supporting. Left a message. "This is my name. If any items under this description were dropped off recently by Marcia or Don last name, I need to reclaim them immediately. They were taken without permission. I will be arriving Saturday morning with identification."
No threats.
Just calm, professional language. But it would land hard. Friday night, Ethan finally asked me, "What's going on Saturday?" I didn't answer. He followed me into the bedroom, tension in his voice. "Come on. This whole final day thing, it's making everyone uncomfortable." I turned to him. "Good. You should be uncomfortable. Because I was humiliated in my own home. And you let it happen." He looked like he wanted to argue. But I closed the door. Saturday came fast. And when 10 a.m. hit, I made sure everyone was in the living room. Just like they always were for their precious Saturday morning coffee and Fox News. I walked in with a folder. Put it on the coffee table. Inside was the list of items, printouts of photos, the donation center's confirmation form, and on top of it all, an eviction notice. I had gone to a lawyer 2 days earlier. Since Ethan and I co-own the house, and his parents were not on the lease or any official document, I had legal grounds to demand they vacate. I wasn't kicking them out that second. I gave them 10 days, but I made it clear they were done. I looked Marcia in the face and said, "You touched my things. You crossed the line. And now you're leaving. You don't control me. You don't control this house. And you definitely don't control Ethan's image, not anymore." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. For once, she had no script to fall back on. Dawn said nothing, just folded the paper neatly, nodded once, and stood up. Ethan just sat there, staring at the folder like it was full of explosives. It wasn't over yet. But they knew now. I wasn't the quiet one anymore. I thought delivering the eviction notice would be the end of it. That they'd pack their things and leave quietly. I underestimated Marcia. The next day, I got a call from my boss. Strange, he rarely called. We usually just messaged over Slack. He said, "Hey, I got a weird email from someone claiming to be concerned about your character. Something about photos online and how you represent our company." My stomach dropped. He forwarded the email. It was from an anonymous Gmail. But the language? It had Marcia written all over it. She had screenshotted old social media photos of me in swimsuits, tank tops, and outfits she had deemed inappropriate. Stuff from years ago, even before I met Ethan. She told my employer I was a potential risk to the brand image and not aligned with traditional values. My boss was cool. He knew me, knew my work. He said he just wanted to let me know someone was clearly trying to smear me. But the damage was psychological. She was digging in deeper, using new weapons now. She wasn't just trying to shame me in my house. She wanted to ruin my life outside of it too. I didn't even confront her. I was past that. Instead, I started documenting everything. Emails, screenshots, texts. I hired a lawyer, real one this time, not just for housing rights, I wanted to build a harassment case. If she was going to play dirty, I'd go all the way legal. Meanwhile, Ethan and I were barely speaking. We slept on opposite sides of the bed. When he asked me if I was serious about getting his parents out, I said yes. He said, "What about us?" And I said, "That depends on whether you're married to me or to your mother." By day 9 of the 10-day notice, they still hadn't packed. Marcia walked around like she was untouchable, like the rules didn't apply. But that's when things finally turned. I found out from a friend, one of Ethan's old campaign coworkers, that Marcia had made some phone calls to local committees he was applying to, told them she was concerned about his wife's moral compass and that family matters might reflect badly on his fitness for service. She was sabotaging her own son's future.
Just to hurt me.
I printed the email, put it on the kitchen table. Ethan saw it. He didn't speak for a full minute. Then he said, "She did this?" I nodded. "And I warned you." He walked outside. I didn't follow him. I didn't need to. When he came back, he said 3 words I didn't expect. "They're leaving tonight." That night, they packed in silence.
No te harás.
No fighting. Just the sound of boxes being taped and cabinets closing. Ethan didn't help them. He just sat in the kitchen with his head in his hands. I could tell something had broken in him. Maybe it was seeing proof. Maybe it was realizing just how far his mother would go to control everything, even at the cost of his career. Marcia didn't look at me as she carried her things out. But right before she walked out the door, she said loud enough for both of us to hear, "You've poisoned him against his own blood. You'll regret this." I didn't respond. I just closed the door behind her. That should have been it. But 2 days later, I came home from a client meeting and noticed a small envelope taped to our mailbox. No return address. Inside were copies of the same photos she'd sent to my employer. And a note. "This is who you really are. You can't hide behind lawyers forever." She was still playing.
Still trying to intimidate me.
But I had already started laying the groundwork. With my lawyer's help, I filed for a cease and desist. And I wasn't done, because what she didn't know was that I'd also spoken with one of the volunteers at the donation center. Turns out Marcia had used their names and her husband's clout on some kind of board to push donations through, bypassing basic intake procedures. She'd bragged to the staff about correcting my wardrobe and joked about saving Ethan's marriage. They remembered it. I had statements.
Names.
And I was building a timeline. Even Ethan, to his credit, started cooperating. He gave me access to his emails, where we found one she had forwarded from his account to a local church newsletter editor, attaching those same photos. She had been impersonating her own son. That crossed into criminal territory. I knew what I had to do, but I wasn't going to file charges just yet.
No.
That wouldn't be satisfying enough. She wanted to damage my name, hurt my marriage, wreck my peace. So I planned something that would show everyone exactly who she was. And I wouldn't lift a finger to lie. All I had to do was let the truth speak. Publicly. I spent the next 2 weeks putting every piece into place. Emails, call logs, witness statements, screenshots, even the envelope she left on our mailbox. My lawyer helped me write a formal packet detailing her harassment, impersonation, and privacy violations. It was meticulous, legal, cold. But I didn't stop there. I waited until the local community board held their quarterly meeting. The same one Marcia always attended as a proud advisor to public family initiatives. That meeting was public, live streamed, recorded. The agenda? Routine updates on youth programs, followed by an open floor for community concerns. I signed up to speak. I walked in wearing a plain gray blouse and black jeans. Hair pulled back. No makeup. No jewelry. I didn't want to look defensive. I wanted to look professional, the way she always said I wasn't. When they called my name, I stepped up to the mic. "Good evening. My name is Redacted, and I live in the Northland area of Columbus. I'm here to speak about a pattern of harassment I've been experiencing from someone who sits on this board and uses her role to influence community spaces." People looked up. Marcia was 3 rows back. I kept going. I described what happened. the closet, the uninvited donation, the emails to my employer, the impersonation of her own son. I provided copies of the evidence to the board's chairperson, who handed it off to the city attorney. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just spoke. And I ended with this. This person weaponized morality to justify abuse. She thought her connections could protect her. I'm here to make sure they don't. Marcia stood up mid-sentence and walked out. That was the beginning of the end. Within a week, the community board issued a public statement distancing themselves from her. She was quietly removed from all committees. Her reputation, so carefully curated, started to crack. Churches she'd networked through stopped returning her calls. Word spread through the community circles. Turns out, I wasn't the only one she'd bullied. Just the first who stood up. But it didn't stop there. Ethan sat down with a local news blogger who covered city politics. He told his story. Not just about her harassment of me, but her manipulation of his career, the fake emails, the interference with his campaign. The blog post went semi-viral locally. Comments rolled in.
People shocked.
Some siding with family loyalty. Most appalled. Ethan told the truth about his own silence. He didn't try to make himself the hero. He admitted how he failed to protect me. That honesty made people listen. As for the clothes, about half were recovered. The other half, gone for good. But I didn't care anymore. Because I took something more valuable than fabric. I took back my name, my peace, my place in my own home. And when Marcia tried to reach out, months later, with some half-assed letter talking about misunderstandings and misplaced intentions, I didn't respond. I left the letter unopened. Let it rot in the drawer. Because that was the real ending. She lost control. She lost access.
And she lost me.
Forever.